The 10 days that broke me, saved me, and taught me what money can never buy. I had 10 days to spend $1 billion. Not to show off, not to prove anything, but because that was the final condition in my uncle's will. The man who raised me when no one else cared. The man who believed I could be somebody long before I ever believed it myself. If I failed to spend it in time, everything would go to a corporation that once destroyed his life's work. This was his last test, and my last chance. My name is Ethan Hale, and this is how 10 days changed everything I thought I knew about money, loyalty, and myself. I started with revenge, the kind that feels sweet for 1 second and bitter for the rest of your life. I drove straight to the soccer club that fired me just 3 months earlier. I stood in their boardroom and told them, I'm buying the entire team. They laughed in my face. So I walked onto the field, brought in a bulldozer, and dumped a mountain of cash right in the center of the stadium. Millions. Real money. Real silence. For a moment, their smirks disappeared, but satisfaction didn't come. Only emptiness. The next day, still desperate to burn through the money, I opened an investment company. And like the genius I was, I appointed my childhood best friend, Liam Brooks, as president, a guy so kind, so loyal, and so absolutely clueless about business that I was certain he'd lose everything within a week. I bought luxury furniture, spent $100,000 on a haircut, and waited for my brilliant financial strategy to explode. But during a staff meeting on day 4, I walked in and froze. Every single investment Liam had made was winning. Not just winning, thriving. Why did you invest in these people? I asked. He shrugged, embarrassed. I don't know, they just seemed like good people trying really hard. I wanted to help them. Good people, trying really hard. I hadn't thought like that in years. For a moment, I saw my uncle in him, and I hated myself for realizing how far I'd drifted from the kind of man my uncle wanted me to be. Still, I had a mission. So on day 6 I spent $10 million for dinner with the top investment expert in the country, the kind of man whose advice shapes entire markets. We sat down, I leaned forward, and asked, how can I lose money fast? He stared at me. His jaw tightened. His eyes changed. You insult every hardworking person in this country with that question, he said coldly. And he walked out. Right then, for the first time, I felt shame. Real shame. That night, I realized something terrifying. When you spend money just to make it disappear, you start disappearing with it. On day 7, out of panic or madness, maybe both, I created an insurance company for $1. The policy, something no one had ever tried before. $1 for every gram of fat you lose. $1,000 for every kilogram. I expected the company to collapse in days. Instead, the country changed. Gyms filled to the brim. Families walked together every evening. Elevators stood empty while people ran up staircases laughing and cheering each other on. Streets became alive, hopeful, bright. People weren't chasing money, they were chasing health, pride, second chances. And the money finally began to vanish. On the morning of day 10, I woke up to an empty bank account. The billion was gone, not on cars or yachts or bizarre luxuries, but on people, their progress, their transformation, their belief in themselves. By the terms of the will, everything else, stocks, houses, assets, became mine. I could have kept it all. But standing there, in the quiet of my empty apartment, I finally understood my uncle. He never wanted me to waste money. He wanted me to learn what it truly meant. I gave up the mansion, the cars, the remaining inheritance. I kept only 2 things, Liam's investment company, which now funded real people with real dreams, and the fitness insurance program, which grew into a national movement for health and dignity. $1 billion disappeared, but for the first time in my life, I felt rich. Money can buy comfort, attention, even power, but it cannot buy the feeling of knowing you changed someone's life. And sometimes, losing a fortune is the only way to discover what truly makes you wealthy.